The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Hey everyone! Get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Greetings and welcome back, everyone. This is indeed The Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. He's Willie Dills Gregory. She's Jocelyn Moffat. And we're back. How are you two doing this week?
Good in Hearthstone, not so great, but in life, awesome.
I'm doing the same way, man. I can't get out of rank 8. There, I said it. I can't make it happen.
I'm not having like rank 8 issues, but I am having it's like any deck I play. There's so many decks right now. Any deck I play seems to run into about 50% bad matchups, 50% good matchups. I can't seem to find the deck that's going to give me the 60% good matchups, right? It's just like, I don't know.
It sounds weird. Like you did what I did, which was finally get fed up, switch to Odd Paladin, and then hit a string of everything that's that's really good against Odd Paladin.
All the taunts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I have been playing a lot of Even Shaman because it seems to be one of the decks that does have a good win rate against almost anything. Especially like sometimes you just draw the nuts, right? Like you just get.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for those nuts cards.
Yeah, Totem into Flame Tongue, into Knife Juggler, into all this stuff, whatever, right? And you just overwhelm people. But like I don't like it. I don't like playing deck. I want to go back to like Miracle Rogue and stuff, but I'm getting beat up by Mid-Range Hunter now is the thing, and I don't know. It just feels like one step forward, two step back a lot of times with the ladder right now. There's just so many decks, and
you guys said you wanted a balanced meta.
Yeah, everybody wants this meta, right?
I'm sorry, Jocelyn. Could you show me? Could you show me where you said you didn't want a balanced matchup?
No, I'm just okay.
I think we all want a control meta. We all want a balanced meta, but when we get it, we realize that life ain't perfect on this side either, right? Like it's just one of those things. You always want it, but then there's no. Okay, this is why it's kind of a problem. There's no deck to just switch to when things aren't going well, right? Like, okay, I'll just play the OP thing. Like,
well,
what do you do?
Is that
there's no OP thing?
Is this what you were getting at, Joss? Like, is that what any of us even want? Is that a good place to be?
I don't know. I mean, I never really played the super OP thing when it was super OP. Most of the reason is because that was often Warlock, and I'm just don't want to play it. Don't want to play against it. Just get Warlock out the game, please. But no, I don't know. I mean, it is always kind of nice to think that there is some sort of like one powerful deck that you can switch to when you get frustrated and when you no longer have that option. I mean, like when I said you guys, I meant kind of like everybody was like, yeah, 50%, we need to aim for 50%. And now it really feels like we're there. And there's a lot of different classes that seem to have many viable archetypes. But then when you actually try to play on ladder, it's like, well, now I need to know, and it's the same in tournaments, actually. We've seen a lot of this in HCT right now, but it's like you need to know, instead of maybe 5 matchups, you need to know like 25 matchups, and it's just like,
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's weird. It's enjoyable from the viewer's perspective, I think, to watch tournaments with all the classes represented, but I have heard rumblings from some of the pros that this is kind of frustrating for them because you know, normally, Firebat was talking about this on Omnistone, that he much prefers a problem-solving style meta where there is a problem in the way, and then you must solve that problem. And right now, he says what it feels like is that there's no problem to solve because everything's an equal problem. So it's just everything is the same. It makes it feel to him like what I choose to queue doesn't really matter, right? I can't actually tech for a meta because the meta is so friggin' diverse.
So varied, yeah.
Yeah, like anything you put in isn't going to necessarily be the right thing. And more than 50% of cases, which is what pros look for, right? When they're playing, is they're looking for edges, right? And a game where the edge is super small actually deters pro play, right? Think about like when Life Coach decided to leave Hearthstone for Gwent. He was saying, his argument was at the time that he can grind and grind and grind and know more about the game than anybody else, but at the end of the day, he's only actually got like a 2% edge over his opponent because of extra 200 hours of preparation, right? And he's like, if I'm going to put in that much time, I want like a 10% edge, right? That's the profitable spot, which is what you could do in games like poker and things like that. So
it's an interesting conversation. I wasn't expecting.
It's a weird thing to have this diverse meta and then be like, oh, I don't know if I like it.
Yeah.
It can feel a little rock, paper, scissory at times because of that. I see what you're getting at. So I guess the place I'd like to see the conversation is, do you think the way to address it is by creating a meta with, like that Firebat was talking about, with a problem to be solved? Because I mean, my brain, because
that basically goes back to everything that we've ever had in Hearthstone, right?
Sure.
With like one powerful deck and then a couple of
that'll happen again.
And yeah,
but
like right now with this super, super diverse meta, it's just like, well, we've never really seen this before, so maybe we just need some time to get used to it and solve it in its own way. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely a lot harder than it ever has been to be competitive in Hearthstone, because there's just so many different matchups that you have to be familiar with, and most of the time you aren't. And I think we're even seeing that a little bit with like HCT coming up this weekend, is like, even looking at the deck lineups, it's like people are all over the place, and it's like, well, they have really, really polarizing matchups, and it's just like, well, you have to kind of hope you can get a good first match and then go from there. Like, it's definitely the most difficult I think it's ever been to be a serious competitive player in Hearthstone. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know if we should aim to stay here or go back to the way it was. But
I don't know if we need one all-powerful deck, but I think one thing that I would like to see is the matchups in particular being less polarizing, right? Like there's more wiggle room in all the matchups for either deck to win, right? Right now it seems like you queue into a matchup and it's like, oh, I just never win this matchup, right? Mm-hmm. Or I always win this matchup. And I think what you want is like, this is a hard matchup for me, but if I maneuver properly and play this game plan, I can win. And I think that's what some people are more concerned about than anything. It's just like, oh no, I don't know. I can't win with this deck against this deck.
A lot of the matchups seem to be like 70-30 as opposed to like 60-40 or even tighter. So yeah, no, you're right. Very, very polarizing.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases, I mean, there's obviously examples where it's a little closer, but yeah, it's interesting. My brain, I immediately go to, well, maybe a different way to play is the way to go. Because I get what you're talking about, Dills, where like a perfect world is something like what we have now, but where the matchups are closer. That is so hard to hit. Like, it's
really difficult. I mean, one thing Hearthstone does give more than a lot of other games is they do give us like more or less non-games, if that makes sense. Like less games that are decided on the mulligan phase and things like that, right? Hearthstone, just the nature of it, just works in that fashion, right? Where you're going to have the same amount of mana as the opponent every turn. You're going to probably, the deck sizes are small enough. You're probably going to draw the cards that are in the deck to be important to the deck, that kind of stuff. So you do inherently have an advantage in this department. But it seems like when they tinkered in a way that got rid of the problems, but didn't get rid of the polarization that some of these matchups have, right? So it's, I don't know, maybe more tinkering, just a little bit here and there. I would kind of like to see like what Zalay was talking about, where there's just a little tinkering every month, right? And there's just new things to figure out all the time. I think that'd be kind of fun. I understand their hesitation to do it, but I think as someone who plays a lot of Hearthstone, I would enjoy it.
Yeah,
and maybe you get a better meta next month than this one, and you don't feel like you're stuck for 2 months, right?
Yeah, I'm still holding out hope for some just other way to play. And I don't think the tournament beta that we're going to be getting is that, even though it will allow you to set up tournaments and whatnot, but something where, again, it fills it in for me, where it pairs me with opponents on Hearthstone's end, where it does all the work for me, something I can queue into, where I bring in multiple decks and play in a best of format, something like that. Again, I always come back to it, I know, but it really makes me think of it when we start having this discussion, because even before, when there is a problem to be solved, there's still very volatile matchups. It's just not the most popular thing to discuss because there's something else that's just in the spotlight that has the high win rate, has the most games played when you're looking at stats websites, and gets everybody talking.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you guys are actually saying you're going to play in the DHL this season, so you'll get to experience that at least somewhere, not in the client, but it is a super fun way to play Hearthstone, and I wish it just existed in the game. Yeah. I wish it was something I could just click in the client and be like, I want to best of 5 a conquest with somebody.
Yeah, and I don't want. I'm not necessarily suggesting that it replace ladder either. I'm suggesting it just be
just another thing
added. Yeah. And when Zalay was talking about all the the constant adjustments, the only other thing I could think about was Heroes of the Storm, because we have constant adjustments in that game, and multiple ways to play it. We have something like Quick Match, which to me feels like Hearthstone's ladder, where it's just pick what you want to play and go. God help you with what you end up in. But then if you want a more competitive experience, you go into the draft environment, and there's even 2 modes for that, and the player base for Heroes of the Storm is minuscule compared to a game like Hearthstone.
Yeah. Is queue time still a problem in Heroes?
It can get a little bit long, especially in the very high end of the skill range, but it's not that bad for the general player.
Yeah, Hearthstone's queue times are so fast that I think it's okay to start splitting up our player base just a little bit. I'm okay to wait a minute to get a really fun game mode, for sure. I do hope that Magic the Gathering's new, what are they calling it, Brawl? Are they calling it Brawl? It's like their mini Commander format. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. If it's anything like Commander, I won't play it.
It's you'll have a blast playing it.
I hate Commander.
It's like a 50 card Commander deck type of thing. Brawl. Yeah, Zix has just confirmed in chat. Okay. I hope that is a super popular way to play in that game, and maybe nudges the Team 5 people to start adding more things like this, because I want other options, right?
Yeah, more.
I don't think anything is going to nudge Team 5 to put other modes of the game. I would hope, but let's be honest. This is Hearthstone. This is what it is. I've given up.
That makes me sad.
We've been defeated.
Well, but see, if my expectations are all the way down here, then when they actually announce a new mode, I'll be like, what?
Sure. Okay, there you go. Fair enough.
But Jocelyn, the last time
if you don't make a Christmas list for Santa, then you're just happy whatever you get.
Exactly.
Well, we used to do that, and now Broad is gone, so we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, Santa Broad is
no more
here,
Santa Broad list.
I thought things might get a little weird with Ben Broad gone. Not that I attributed I think what the 3 of us see as stagnation as Broad's fault, but things haven't changed at all since Broad left.
Well, we haven't had our big expansion announcement. I think that's going to be when we really feel the lack of Broad.
Sure. Taverns of Time though was really it has been really fun.
Oh,
so
it's been
they're
great.
doing stuff. Stuff is happening.
It's been great and also terrible for my rank.
Sure. Yeah, because you just kind of want to click over there and do that. Especially for me, it's just become one of those things where I'm like, play a few games on ladder and I get a little annoyed that the matchups are polarizing and I can't seem to find a deck that's going to win more than it loses, right? And then I just go, well, there's this arena thing going on. I just click back over there. I mean, I'm glad that it's there, but it's going to go away eventually, and then we'll never have it again.
They might bring it. Although, that you just reminded me, I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been Hearth Poem, but there was some talk about, is the Midsummer Fire Festival coming back? And I'm like, I'm not so sure it is. So maybe Taverns of Time will also never come back. That would make me sad, because this has been a really fun event.
It has forced me to go to all my accounts and get all my quests done, because dust plus gold, man. These quests are freaking great.
Oh, these quests are bonkers. Can we start a petition to just have these quests be permanent?
I know, right? These seem like better quests anyway. Like, just play 25 turns. Okay, I can do that. That just means I play Hearthstone, right?
Yep.
Like, winning with a class that I don't have cards for, that just feels bad when you have free-to-play accounts, you know?
Although, if you've been playing Even Shaman, if you got the spell one, that one takes forever if you're playing Even Shaman.
That one does take forever because you play like 2 spells. I just play a couple Miracle Road games and it's done.
And you're done. Wonderful. Well, let's move on to the news. There's quite a bit to actually to dive into this week.
Good news, everyone.
I honestly kind of forgot that it was this close. HTT Summer Championship. It starts this Thursday. It's here. We've got the top 16. The decks are out, which means we also know the class representation, which means the most popular class is Warlock with 14 decks out of 16 possible. And then we have 13 Druids, 11 Shamans, 9 Rogues, 5 Mages, Hunters and Priests tied at 4 each, 3 Paladins, and 1 Warrior.
Warlock's been on the top for a really long time.
Yeah, that being said, it has changed a decent amount. There's very few Q blocks coming. There's the lowest amount of Warlocks are Q blocks. All of the other Warlocks...
Yeah, but we've had even Warlocks since, like, the nerfs happened. It's been dominating, so...
That's true.
It's definitely been, 4, maybe 5 events now where... Well, it's been for, 6 months that Warlock's been on top, but it's been 4 or 5 HCT events now that we've had even Warlock just dominating everything, so...
I'm okay with even Warlock, though, compared to old school Q block, because basically it's... If you can mulligan for some way to deal with giants, early giants, and then deal with them, they kind of run out of... they don't have this infinite 3/9 thing going on that you used to have to deal with. So at least, once that happens, you can actually kill them, you know? It's just deal with a couple early 8/8, and you're fine. Which is something that you couldn't really do with Q block. It was don't deal with anything. Oh, they did something that you don't even have a chance to deal with, and now they're all back again and again and again. And it was just hope that you have a ooze for Skull the Minari sometimes, and even if you don't, they still win. It was annoying. So this is better.
Yeah, it's more so just the domination of the class and how long it's been the most brought class to competitive tournaments. It's been on top for so long.
The problem is they need to be giving Warlock really bad cards, and they've been giving them really good cards lately. And Warlock has this hero power that's insane, and so the only way to keep them okay is to not give them OP cards. Let's not give them 1 mana heal for 8, summon a 3/9. Let's not do that.
I feel like if you're onto the design team, there's just a daily session where they all go into a room and cuss at the top of their lungs about the Warlock hero power. Just every day. They're like, oh, I did this. No, well, you got a broken 2-card combo here. That is not a thing we worry about with any other class.
It's weird because they really, if you think about it, they backed themselves into a corner day one with Warlock. And because that effect is so powerful that in other games, an effect like that is like some sort of a card you have to play and then have stick on the board to then gain an effect like this, right?
Yeah, not just available to you every turn.
Yeah, not just every turn. Just do it. Do it every turn. Why not?
Yeah.
I kind of struggle to see what they could do about it if they were to decide at some point that this is too hard. I don't know. Too good. Maybe they could take it. They could say draw a card, discard a card, something like that.
Yeah, we haven't seen a hero power altered since beta, right? It was the rogue hero power. Used to add durability if your dagger wasn't gone.
Used to add power on the second go around.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, you could make it a 2/2 weapon if you hit it again.
Yeah, which was nuts. I mean, rogue was just nuts in general in beta.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you too, Dills. That being said, Joss, I'm curious because now you've been doing BattleNet Sports. You've been working for DreamHack. I'm sitting here having only watched 2 of, I think, the 5 events that you've mentioned, thinking, oh yeah, the new meta is still fresh in my mind competitively. It's not so much on the ladder. I kind of already have my head wrapped around it. But competitively, I'm like, yeah, even Warlocks, not Q block, woo, we win. Do you feel that when you cover it more deeply, and also maybe work for a LAN company that this stuff wears itself out a little sooner?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've been watching more Hearthstone in the last like 2 months than I probably ever have, because like I literally have to watch the tournament from start to end every day of the tournament. So like I'm not missing any matches. So I'm sure I'm the one that's going to get burnt out more than anybody else, because I'm not, I can't pick and choose. I don't, yeah. So I have to see everything. And I mean, like, I think the summer championships coming up is going to be probably maybe more interesting than some of the stuff we've seen. Is definitely like the least diverse meta that we have in a tournament, because we just have so many fewer participants. So like the field, and even then, like least diverse meta still has what, like 3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 15. So like 15 different potential decks that we're going to see played, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it definitely seems to be probably the most refined meta that we're going to see. But yeah, I definitely am up there on the burnout charts.
That makes sense.
I mean, like, it's fine. I'm still not like totally burnt out, but I'm definitely burnt out on like watching Warlock games. Like I don't want to see any more of them. And it's like I wasn't a big fan of Q Block or Control Lock before the nerfs, and Warlock didn't go anywhere after the nerfs. So I'm just kind of like, yep, I'm done. I'm ready to see like poor Warrior. Like I feel like Warrior, Recruit Hunter, or just Hunter in general, and Mage, like they've really been struggling-ish. Like they're decent decks, but the representation just hasn't been there, because it very much feels like one of your deck slots is taken up by a Warlock deck, one of your deck slots is taken up by a Druid deck, and then after that you've got a couple to play with. So a lot of the other classes are just not seeing the play that they should or possibly could. So I'm ready for a change. I'm ready for an expansion.
I was curious. I just find it fascinating because we hear from folks all the time that want to, work in the industry, whether it's, something like DreamHack or doing coverage for esports, and it's something you don't really think about all the time. If you like have to watch every single thing that happens, that eventually you're just like, yeah, I've seen this matchup like 40 times now. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I will say though that I think Warlock is not the reason why the other classes aren't being represented as much. Like to me, I think there's a few other things going on that are causing some of these other classes. Like think about like this Taunt Warrior. Like why aren't more people playing Taunt Warrior? It's like, well, because there's even Shaman and Odd Paladin, and that turning your hero power into a random 8 damage fireball thing is not good against the whole board full of tokeny stuff, right? So it's like,
oh yeah, not necessarily saying that Warlock is like defining the meta.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm just sick of watching it. I'm sick of seeing it. It's a personal choice for sure.
Yeah, it's common and it's good, but like I would much prefer this to like oppressive thing like that we did have before. So I mean, yeah, and I do think that even Warlock is more interesting to watch because the texture of the turns is so much different than we've gotten used to seeing with Warlock. Just because 1 mana hero power compared to 2 mana, like everything. You have to watch out how many cards you have in the beginning of the game, because oftentimes they get a full hand really quickly. And then it's a little more difficult to navigate, I think, than Q Block, which was kind of like tap until I get my QB stuff, make my QB stuff. Now sit here and wait for you to concede, right? Like at least like they're thinking about things.
Yeah.
And I much prefer it.
Yeah. This is the other thing looking at this for me. Like I look at it and I look at the archetype breakdown, and it looks like the latter to me, like more so than it feels like. Maybe my memory is just completely faulty, but in recent memory for tournaments, the only thing that really sticks out to me in stark contrast to our representation in our home games is that there are fewer paladins being brought to this tournament than there are hunters, priests, and mages.
Yeah. I mean, Odd Paladin is a great choice for the latter, but I think in a tournament setting against really good, pros and stuff who understand how to play against it. Also, it's not that great against decks like Warlock too. So Warlock's at least keeping the Paladins at bay. Defile's real good against Paladin, turns out.
One damage to everything that happens again is really good against a class that wants to make 2 1/1s for 2 mana. Oh, yeah. Huh. Go figure.
So I will say this though about Warlock, I do enjoy watching a sweet Defile turn go off. That's pretty fun. But I can see how after, watching it 30 times, you're like, okay, I get it. He made everything 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5, then 6.
Look at
Got
all the
it.
poops
Cool.
go. Yay. Yep.
It's funny.
But at first, those were like magical, right? Like when you just
absolutely. And
you just click that card and then the board was gone.
I love that Defile and Lord Godfrey exist because they're definitely skill testing cards to make sure that you're getting rid of everything that needs to be gotten rid of and maybe potentially saving your side of the board if that's even possible, and then even trying to decide whether, sacrificing your board is worth clearing what's on the other side. Like, I'm glad the cards like that exist. I think that they're great, but yeah, after watching it 30 times in a day, it's like, okie doke. Look at those poofs go. Look at that, like, what is the thing that the dude in Overwatch does? The death spiral, whatever.
Death Blossom? You talking about Reaper?
Yes, Death Blossom, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what Lord Godfrey does.
Yeah, that's right. He just walks into the middle of everybody and blows them all up.
Just yells, die. And then gets play the game, even though he has like 9 deaths.
Yep.
It might just be me when I play Reaper.
This actually brings me to a question. Do you think that Hearthstone tournaments are broadcasting too much? Are we watching too many games in a broadcast?
With the HCT tour stops, it's the amount of Hearthstone that's available at the highest level it's more than ever before. We literally have a tournament like every other weekend. And so, yeah, there's a saturation level that we have never reached before, but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. If anything, I think that before there wasn't enough to watch. I love that I can sit down and watch a tournament.
If you have to watch it, though, I can see why then it's this is a lot to take in to just watch a tournament. But for the most viewers, what happens is you move in and out of a tournament, right? Like you're home for a little bit, you pop on the tournament, you're watching a little bit.
When your favorite players are playing.
Yeah. You run off and get some food, you come back, oh look, Hearthstone's still going on, because it's like every day's 8 hours. It just feels like sometimes it's like we could just boil this down to the most important of games, right, and then give a pretty nice experience. But Coach K in the chat is like, no, I want all of it. All right, sure.
I don't think there's anything wrong with broadcasting as much as you possibly can. I just personally have no interest in seeing every game of Hearthstone currently broadcasted. There's too much. It's pretty similar. And this is the day of the internet, man. If there's a good game, I can just watch it after the fact, after the internet loses their mind over it.
Yeah. Remember our pre-recorded tournament, though? Like, people, it's so funny. It's like, I like that, too. I go back and watch the VODs, but for some reason, people have to see it live.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not me. I think, me personally, too, I think I was trained from early days of StarCraft 2 when it was only South Korea, and I couldn't watch it unless I wanted to stay up until like 5 a.m. Yeah. So I would have to catch it on the VOD. So, yeah, what I usually do with Hearthstone tournaments is I go in and I kind of skim looking for matchups that are interesting to me, and then I go straight to like the top 4, and then I just watch that. Yeah. Yeah, usually I end up like Monday. I'll make my breakfast and I sit my butt down and I like you. I watch the last 4 matchups, not like just between players. Yes, semifinals and forward. Thank you, Jocelyn. Brain is poop today. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, but I would say just broadcast as much as you want. Like I don't think they'd be doing it if it wasn't still worth their time. So if people are watching it, that's great. Like, I do know though that in general, it appears that after these tournaments, everybody is friggin' tired and spent, right? Like casters, players, viewers, like Jocelyn, who has to do the whole thing because of a well, and I mean, and casters, casters is actually really interesting because I feel like they have really shrunk down the pool, and even with the announcement of HCT Summer, they I think have 3 casting pairs. And they have Cora hosting. And that is a problem in and of itself because she's a fantastic caster. And I think making her the host instead is a huge misstep. But on top of the fact that they're not making full use of their talent, they're going to totally burn out their 3 casting pairs. Like 3 pairs of people isn't enough to do a 3-day long tournament. You really, really need, in order to keep the casters fresh and keep the commentary on point,
you need more than 3 pairs. You should be doing 4 at least, if not 5. And it's not like there isn't enough casting talent in Hearthstone. We have tons of great casters.
Sure.
I think that 3 casting pairs is nowhere near enough. And I think this HCT summer is going to be interesting, and I hope that they can keep up, but I don't think that anyone should be asked to work as much and as hard as these casters are being asked to work.
I'm with you on that. But we don't really know exactly why. There might be money, like concerns about how many people can we hire and stuff like that. Especially, I don't know exactly what the rates are for them at this point, but I'm sure they're getting decent amounts of money now. Because I've heard of them like turning down smaller tournaments and stuff at this point because it's not the rate that they're used to anymore. But I'm with you. I also would like to see. I'd like to see this. I would like to see the casting pair end. I'm sick of I don't want to always watch Sottle and Raven. Can't I see Raven with somebody else? Can't I see TJ with Frodan again? They seem like they broke them up, and then they I really enjoyed them together. Can we just have them all rotate in and out? I get that they're trying to develop chemistry between certain pairs, but
I think they've gone
kind
too
of
far,
fun to have
though,
dynamics.
because if you watch some of the pairs, and I mean Raven and Sottle is a great example, but I think even TJ and Admirable is another great example. They get too comfortable with each other, and then they end up going down these rabbit holes of inside jokes, and then it's I find myself watching some of these tournaments going, oh my God, talk about the board. That was an important turn. Why aren't you talking about it? And they've just gone down this rabbit hole and almost forgotten what they're doing, which I also think is something that happens when they get too fatigued, because it doesn't happen so often on day 1, but it starts to happen a lot more when you're getting into late day 2 into day 3, when they're getting exhausted, and then they're just they fall back on their comfort zone with their comfort casting partner. And then I think the casting suffers. So if we just had more people casting, more people available to swap in and out, it'd be better for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I get the reasoning why they tried to do this, develop chemistry and everything, but yeah.
But
just
there's so many of them that have chemistry between.
Yeah, they all have chemistry.
They
hang out all the time.
Casters, and they hang out all the time. There's no reason they need to be in these bro pairs.
With the British guys together.
I mean, that's also, to me, I look at that and see it as a holdover from stuff like StarCraft. Because the first casters that were, they were the first 2 to become a household name. They freaking gave them an Archon name, for crying out loud. Where you say their names together and everyone knows who you're talking about. But that being said, when I think about it myself, I'm not, no duo in Hearthstone is that precious to me.
No, there isn't somewhere where oh yay, thank God it's these 2 again together. I'm just
Well, and there's nothing saying you can't pair them up together ever, but it's just
just move it around a little bit.
Yeah.
Give me some dynamics.
I would bet, and I mean this is, I hate going down this road, but it's just in my brain. I got to get it out. But there's no casters here to represent themselves. But I would assume most casters would probably enjoy working with the same person over and over again, much the way the 3 of us enjoy doing the show on the regular together, because we know each other's quirks. We know when someone else is going to step in and start talking.
That's true. No, I think there's definitely something to that, and that's, who knows? I mean, where that decision
not going to say anything and just let it hang and be a really
I know that would be actually really good.
That'd be a great way to screw with me. Thanks, guys.
But I mean, who knows really where this decision kind of came from? Maybe the casters themselves were hey, we'd like to work in pairs and develop this. I don't know. But I just know as a viewer watching it, I remember when they started doing it, and I remember being okay. And now, a year later, I'm ready for the experiment to change.
Yeah. Let's have fun with it. Let's break it up, mix it up, see what happens.
Sure.
Bring back Cora.
And, yes, for the love of God.
Well, she didn't go anywhere. She's
not casting, and I think that's something that should be mentioned, and I think that's a mistake.
I agree. So
it feels to me like they don't even need the host position at all, right?
No.
Can't 2 or 3 people kind of share those duties, and they just know that they're doing that, and then they swap into the casting role at some point. Seems like that would work.
Again, it's a thing in other esports that I like. It's a thing that I really liked when I was following MLG, half a decade ago for the StarCraft circuit. They had hosts on the regular. I really enjoyed it, but. And I would probably like it in Hearthstone, but because it's Cora, I'm with you, Joss. My brain goes to, why isn't she casting? I'm not against a host. But and I'm not
well,
saying.
And I think that that's the thing. The host, and maybe this is my own perceptions, but the host role in Hearthstone has generally been the person who kind of asks the super general questions that isn't a player and that isn't a caster, and usually like we'll do player interviews and stuff like that, and kind of keeps the broadcast going. And
it's been not, TJ and Frodan, basically.
And yeah, and I mean it has been TJ and Frodan too. But I'm thinking more along the lines of back when we had like Rachel. When Seltzer was doing the host, like she wasn't a caster, she was a host, she was a personality, and I think that when you take the casters and put them into the host role instead, it feels a little bit like a demotion, and I think that that's crazy. I think that if we have casters available and if we're gonna pay them, let them cast.
But maybe it's not a demotion. Maybe this is a super sweet promotion, and we don't just know it. Maybe she's getting paid more than everybody else now.
That's true.
And this is what she wanted to do. Like I don't know. I don't know.
We have no way of knowing that. It's just difficult when you. I think for me it's difficult to think of someone as a host when they previously were a caster and previously were a stellar caster that also wasn't even there from the beginning. So it was something that like Cora came in later on down the line. And I think surprised a lot of us with how good she was.
Well, she won, so you think you can cast the first time around.
Right. Which
I will say this though, like I don't want to make any assumptions about what these people want to do, and they could very well have been asking to do these types of things. I will say this though, I do prefer someone in the host role to be somebody who knows what the hell they're talking about, because oh my god, those cringe moments where it's after the tournament and then some random person who just is a professional esports gaming host comes up and asks the dumbest question ever is really annoying. So I'd much rather have at least Cora or TJ or Frodan or somebody who knows what the hell is going on in Hearthstone come up and ask a question that actually matters, right? I do think that's better than the pretty face doesn't know anything host, whether that's male or female. I'm not saying whatever, but it's just I don't like the person who doesn't know anything that just looks good on camera. That is annoying. I much prefer, someone who understands the game being in that role.
But then I think we come around back to the why can't we just have rotating hosts and rotating casters? Like why can't we have TJ, Frodan, and Cora rotate through the host role, and when they're not hosting, maybe cast a game or two?
I mean, there's no reason why we can't. We don't know exactly the dynamics of why it isn't happening. I'm sure.
The only thing that I feel like maybe might be a dynamic problem might be TJ, because he works for Blizzard now. But I feel like if he works for Blizzard, make more use of him. He's on the clock all the time anyway. That's what salaries are for.
Yeah, I think they're all. I think these are all good suggestions. I just like to see them try it and see how it goes. Right. I think the big thing is if we're gonna swap hosts out for casters and vice versa, you're gonna need more casters because they're already tired. And this is not me being like, give me a casting job. I would suck at it. I'll take a host job though. Send it my way. I am neither a player nor a caster. But yeah, that's interesting. I haven't really thought about that in a while. But thank you, Jocelyn, for sending me down something that was bothering,
derailing the HCT. You're welcome.
That was bothering me that I didn't really realize that was bothering me, and now it's bothering me again. But there's some other stuff going on other than HCT. We're going to come back around to it a little bit in strategy, by the way. We're going to talk about the 3 one-of decks that are being brought. We're going to do an Underdog segment. But before we get there, there's what looks to be a new series of Q&A posts starting up over on the Hearthstone forum. Community manager Jesse Hill posted this week. It's called Tavern Talk. And for what appears to be the first one of a series, Jesse Hill answered 3 popular community questions in regards to Hearthstone, the first of which being, are there any additional rewards for players who have achieved a golden hero in every class? The answer coming from Team 5 is, usually, when we add new features or rewards, we like to make something that can be obtained by 10% or more of the players. Only very few of our players have the 9 golden heroes, and we feel that's already pretty awesome by itself. So this has come up before, and we've gotten basically the same answer, although I think this is the first time that 10% figure has been thrown around. Obviously, I wouldn't carve it in stone, but I'm taking this as less than 10% of the player base has all 9 golden heroes.
But when that less than 10% of the player base is like your 10% of the most visible Hearthstone players you've got, maybe you want to reward them so that they're happy and excited to play your game.
I mean, I am one of these 10%, and I will say this: it would be nice, but once I got all 9, it felt pretty cool. Still, I was happy about it. It's nice to queue into any single class and just see that golden portrait pop up and just know that. I don't know. It's like if they put another thing there, it might then put me back in the position of playing classes just to get the next reward thing, which I don't know. I'm happy to do that if there's a really cool reward on the other end, but I'm also totally happy to just be like, hey, I'm done.
I can play anything now.
Yeah, like I got this thing done. I never have to worry about it again. It's kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah, I can go both ways on this, to be honest. As somebody who actually did do that journey, I remember at the end just got to get this class now. Now I got to get this class, and going back to that might be.
And I can't remember which class you finished on, but I feel like you finished on a class that was like not doing well in the meta at the time, and it was a grind and a half. Was it Paladin? Like
it was like no, Paladin was pretty early for me. I think Warlock was my first, and then it was something like Druid or Priest or something like that.
Yeah. Oh no, because Shaman you did pretty early on too because of Tunnel Trug Totem Golem.
Sure. But it was definitely. I remember the last one was like, I don't want to be playing this right now.
Yeah.
I have not gotten all 9 classes, and I'm still with Dills. I could go either way. I'm not mad that there aren't more rewards, but I wouldn't be mad or all that excited if they added more. Like, it's fine. If they want to add more, go for it. If they don't, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, it felt like like they were answering questions that nobody has really asked in a long time.
That was kind of
like, yeah, we can go either way. We don't really care. Where's our bans in tournament mode? Okay, thanks, bye.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, because they also brought up the new player experience, and it was really a non-answer other than they said that they have some small changes they would like to make at some point. And then they talked about adding additional ranks above rank 25. And then they said you can only advance forward through those ranks. And I'm like, well, I would assume that would be the case because that's also the case from... Oh, wait, no, not anymore. Never mind. Whatever the case is. Cool.
Well, it sounds like there's going to be some sort of a new player rank where then you play through that before you hit rank 25 for the first time, then you never go back to them, right?
Right. Like
that makes sense to me, just to kind of, because at rank 25, on my free-to-play accounts, I do see straight-up meta decks with, full legendaries and all that kind of stuff. And if you're brand spanking new, you want to play against other brand spanking new people, right?
Yeah.
So you feel like you have a chance.
Yeah. So, like, for example, let's say it's 30 through 26. Once you hit 25, you will never see 26 again, no matter what. Which would be interesting. Exactly. And seems like a smart way to go for it. But more info, please. And then finally, they said, what are your thoughts on alternative card art or reprints of cards from earlier sets? And pretty much what we've heard in the past regarding alternate card art, that they think it would be confusing. I still think that's dumb. And reprints are not out of the picture, but no plans for the near future. So these are all questions that have been answered before. With the only new info here is the rank 10%. Above 25. Well, and the 10% for Golden Heroes.
Yeah. I don't like them avoiding something like this just because of the recognizable aspect of a piece of art. I mean, if you don't pay attention, that's on you, man. Like, come on, give me different art. Different art is fun.
It would be a bigger problem if they all of a sudden changed the names of the cards or something.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't look at the art necessarily. Usually what I'm doing is like looking at the name of the thing.
It's all the things added up together that make you instantly recognize a card. Yeah,
true.
It's the mana cost and the attack and the blah, 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 and you see it. But sure, art has a part of that. It's just, I think the player base will get used to there being a second version of art for each card. I think it'll be fine.
I don't know, man. Those extra deck slots, whew, that's a lot.
I mean, obviously you don't do it for like every single card in the game, but you just, here and there you get specialty. Like, what if you got, a brand new version of Fireball that was all yours and you feel cool about it because you had to earn it somehow. and now you get like a cooler fireball than everybody else. I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I also like as much as I think it's dumb, I also don't think it's that important. I just would like to put that out there as well. Like I don't think
it's not
we must have alternate card art, but being like it's going to be too confusing. Like anytime in any game you're like it's going to be too confusing, my instant reaction is always, oh, screw you. Like that's always it. Just like I can figure it out. Okay. Like Hearthstone is not that confusing of a game. I can only have 7 minions on the board at the same time. Let's get real here.
I like Infrarogue bringing up full card art as a thing that is a way you could do it without actually changing the card art, but you can open up cards, which they do in a few other games where you can essentially, it removes, like Hex has this, it like removes the text, but then if you hover over the card, the text comes back type of thing.
Yeah.
But basically it just gives you like a giant cool looking card that.
Oh, so like instead of just the portrait, it's your whole entire
card is the art.
Is art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
super
very
cool looking, and it's sometimes you can do fun little reveals. Like there's one card in Hex where like you don't see, I can't remember what it is. You don't see like something that's in their hand or something, and then when the full card art happens, like you can see the hand, and there's interesting stuff that you can do with it.
I have a couple.
And it's not golden or non-golden. You could take golden cards and make them full art.
Yeah. I have a few full art lands for Magic, and I love them. I always make sure they go in like any deck I make that's pulling from that color. The only thing I would mention, like to get a little art nerdy for a second, is that when we play our cards and they hit the board, they just turn into those ovals, and it's pretty much just the art already.
Yeah, they are just art at that point. Yep.
So there wouldn't be. I don't see how you would make the on-board version of the card all that different. So the only person really enjoying the full art would be you with your cards in your hand.
Which would be you when it's in your hand, but that's fine. When it's in your hand or in your collection, you're getting a look at the full card art. I think that's still fun.
Yeah. I'd like to see
some of the card art, when it's the actual full versions that you can find on the fan sites, looks so much cooler than the little portion they decided to cut out.
Yeah.
It's like card backs. Like I don't really get to enjoy my card back when I play it. It's just I'm picking it to show to you.
I still wish I still wish the deck was stacked face down like a real card game rather than in that weird little slot, just so I can see my card back. Give it a little perspective so I can see how thick the stack is. It's fine. I believe in you. But yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to see a Hearthstone spin on full art. Something that's maybe not as obvious as what any of us are talking about here, because I feel like there's something cool they could do. There's something that they could do to make it unique on the board, but it's eluding me. But let's talk about matchmaking, because there's been some supposed issues happening in Hearthstone. No word from actual Team 5 on this yet, though. But if you go over to Competitive Hearthstone right now, it's the top post on it. There's also a PC Gamer article kind of chronicling a lot of the tweets from pro gamers that are talking about this issue that went up today as well. But what's basically happening is that Legend Rank players are queuing into matches with players that are below their rank, significantly below their rank, and sometimes even players that aren't in Legend yet. And then
this has been happening since the beginning of Witchwood.
Yeah,
because they actually
they changed some stuff at that time
to fix the ladder, and obviously it hasn't worked because this is still happening. This isn't really a new issue.
It's essentially like you can boil it down to it feels like I'm getting matched against people I shouldn't be, and because of that, it's harder to climb, even with a win rate of a positive win rate, right? Like,
well, and the worst,
and it shouldn't feel like a positive win rate ever makes you go down in ranks, but apparently that can happen now.
Right. The issue is that if you're winning against opponents with significantly lower ranks, it's not moving you forward very much. But then if you lose to one, especially one that's not even in Legend yet, that the negative is so much worse than any positive from your previous victories against lower ranked players that it's just screwing your climb.
It's adding an RNG element to this climb that shouldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like if I'm lucky enough to queue into people way higher than me, then I can climb real quick with some wins. But if I'm unlucky and queue into people way lower than me, then it's like impossible to climb. So
yeah. I didn't think it was new, but I hadn't heard anyone talking about it for a while. So I was curious if maybe it went away and then it popped back up. But it sounds like it's just been consistent.
I think it's just being revocalized again
Yeah.
because it's something that they kind of said was being addressed and then clearly hasn't been. So,
Well, it sounds like somebody needs to take an ad out on Reddit.
yeah, there you go. That's 100% win rate on that, right?
Taking out an ad on Reddit?
Yep. You want to get a card changed? Ad on Reddit.
I was going to talk about Hearthstone tea, and we're already an hour in, so screw it. There's Hearthstone tea in Taiwan, and it's silly. Go look it up. It's more of a visual gag.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, again, go to the competitive HS subreddit if you want to read more about this, or PC Gamer currently has an article up that sources a ton of tweets from pro gamers talking about very specific instances they've had post Legend where they're losing a ton of points. So, by the way, I've seen multiple outlets say that they've reached out to Blizzard for comment, and Blizzard has a comment. We have also reached out to Blizzard for comment and have not received a comment. So maybe we'll talk about it next week.
I don't think we'll probably hear anything because they've already said that they fixed it. So they're just going to be like, la, 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 and not actually address this again.
I'm sure they're trying to fix it. I just don't know why they're not saying anything.
Because they're Blizzard?
Hey, they're Hearthstone. Heroes talks to us all the time.
I was going to say, is that supposed to make it better? Because I think you just proved my argument.
Overwatch
But
talks
no,
to us all the time.
Where they've already said that they've patched it and they've already said that they fixed it, I mean, it would be a huge thing for them to actually admit that there is still a problem and they didn't actually fix it when they patched it. So I don't really expect to hear anything from them, but I'm glad that because I feel like when it was originally an issue, it was mostly something that was seen on like Reddit and Twitter, and it was like all of the pro players were pushing this issue forward. But I'm glad that now this time it seems like it's being picked up by actual news outlets. So maybe there will be a little bit more pressure that isn't just going to come from kind of social media, and maybe they actually will fix something, because it basically feels like they have the same sort of system as every other game ever, where like you get some points for a win, some points for a loss, but if you're heavily favored, then you're going to, and if you're heavily favored and lose, you're going to lose a lot of points because you were supposed to win that match. But I feel like that system doesn't really work in Hearthstone, especially when they've set their like searching for opponents window so large. Like I feel like people like RDU and Gara, who are playing at the very top of the Legend ladder, would be totally fine waiting 5 minutes for a match if it then meant they were going to be matched up with somebody within 50 ranks of their rank or something like that. You know, more of an even matchup. I'm sure they wouldn't mind waiting. Same as like Garrett, you were just talking earlier in the episode about how the queues at really like at what Grandmaster in Heroes? I don't know what the top rank actually is. But
no, you're right on the money.
In Heroes is long. And is anyone really complaining about those queue times if it means they get an even match?
No, but they do. I'll tell you, they complain when they don't get an even match. And so
that's the problem, right? But even then, like, I would think if you have longer queue times that are really trying to find you someone close to your rank, then like it might happen once or twice that you get these bad matchups. Whereas in Hearthstone, because they want us to match up within a minute or two, they're getting bad matchups all the freaking time, and that's the problem. So just narrow your window, Hearthstone. Make them wait. I'm sure they're fine with waiting.
My big point here is just talk to us. This is the kind of it's if this has clearly been going on longer. You know, whatever the fix that was implemented was clearly was not an all around fix. So let us know. Like I don't understand why they're not talking about it. Even if their fix didn't work, like tell us that. Yes, there's going to be some people in the thread losing their minds like, oh, it's a conspiracy. This is, terrible code monkeys. But the majority of us, we start to get more worried when you're quiet. So it's just odd. The communication has been a little funky lately. But we'll see what happens. We'll definitely cover it on the show if and when Blizzard says anything about what's going on with matchmaking and or fixes it. But before we move to strategy, we have a sponsor to thank today, HelloFresh.com. They are back to sponsor this episode of The Angry Chicken and deliver great food ready to cook in a meal kit, in a box with like ice and stuff, so that if you're a host that lives in Florida and it's really hot outside and you can't get to your door for like 5 hours, It's still fine. Everything's still freezing cold and fresh inside. So you should check them out at hellofresh.com/TAC30 to see their offerings. Joss, do you like eating the same thing over and over again?
No, not really.
Well,
unless
good.
it's pizza.
Oh, yeah. But in general, and honestly, I think we would be dead by now if we just had pizza all the time.
Or like I'd be 400 pounds. So I do need some variety every
Wait,
once
is
in a
pizza
while.
allowed on the, what's the diet called?
Keto diet. No.
No pizza? Oh my
Nope.
God, I'm off. I'm off keto.
I love how you're off something you've never been on.
I'm back on. Yeah, I was briefly on, but I'm back off now.
No beer either, man.
Well, whatever the case is. The point I was getting to is that it's good. HelloFresh has you covered because they have a great selection. You can choose from 3 different meal plans. They've got the classic, which is what I do. Send you meat, send you vegetables, send you all kinds of stuff. They also have a veggie option. They also have a family plan, which gives you quick and easy meals for the entire family. They also make cooking fun. Like everything comes prepackaged, everything you need to make the meal. All you have to do is cut it up, sometimes mix a sauce. It's very simple. My wife and I like to divvy it up. It's fun in the kitchen. Unless I always want to fight for like dicing onions. I don't know why. I really like dicing onions.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird. It's, you know what it makes you feel like when you get your HelloFresh box? It makes you feel like you're on like a cooking show. You know when you watch a cooking show and you're like, that looks awesome, having everything in these little bowls and they're all pre-portioned and you know exactly, you're like mixing all these things together. You kind of feel like that because you do have everything portioned out properly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, this and then this and then this. And you're like, oh, now I mix and I make. Okay. It's awesome. Like
Yeah.
I always watch cooking shows and I'm jealous of their kitchen. In HelloFresh, you get like a little mini version of that.
Yep, and it's curated every week. It's just super convenient. Don't need to like make some big plan for a grocery store trip. It just shows up and you're ready to cook these meals. Which is exactly like that's what's happened for us. Like their subscription method has replaced the weekly grocery trip. It's awesome. So check them out again. HelloFresh.com/TAC30 TAC30. I don't usually do this, but I would say one of my favorite dishes is coming up. So if you haven't tried it yet, go give it a shot because on July 7th, the honey glazed pork tenderloin is coming back. And Katie and I lost our minds over this because I was never a big pork guy, and this dish sold me. So go try them out. So they have an offer for the Angry Chicken listeners. You can get $30 off when you visit that link, HelloFresh.com/TAC30, and also use the code TAC30. Again, that's $30 off your first week of deliveries by going to HelloFresh.com/TAC30 and entering, you guessed it, TAC30 when you subscribe. Now, let's see what the most unique decks coming to HCT this Thursday are going to look like.
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay!
So once I fix the overlay here and get the actual deck lists in that I meant to transfer over to, we will be talking about 3 different decks. We're going to talk about Raze's Taunt Warrior. It's the only Taunt Warrior being brought. Zhao Ti's Spiteful Druid, which is the only Spiteful Druid being brought. And Dog's Combo Dragon Priest, which you probably guess it, is the only Combo Dragon Priest coming to the Summer Championship on Thursday. So let's kick things off with the Warrior deck. So this is Raze's Taunt Warrior. If you're unfamiliar with Raze, he's from Brazil. And yeah, bring in Taunt, or if you would prefer Quest Warrior, whatever you want to call it, we won't judge.
I love his version because it's got the Azalina Soul Thief in it, which is super fun. I played a little bit of the Quest Warrior with that card too, and it's better than you think. There's a lot of situations where you kind of take people into like late game scenarios. You start to run out of cards in your hand because this deck doesn't run as much draw as like a Dead Man's Hand type warrior or something like that. You got like Acolytes and Battle Rage and stuff like that, and shield blocks. But outside of that, you're not drawing as much. So, you get to that hero power and then you just take their hand and then you just have a better hero power than them, guaranteed pretty much at that point. So it's really cool. And also the Cornered Sentry is great as a counter to Taunt Druid, which there is a ton of in this tournament. So good call there as well.
Yeah, the Azalina Soul Thief sticks out like a very interesting sore thumb
I'm telling you, if you play this, even on ladder, like that card is better than you think in this type of deck because it's so far been used in very specific decks that are trying to like togwaggle you and blah blah blah. Here, it's like it's all it's there for is just sometimes I just need a bunch of cards and a bunch of resources. I don't have them, you do. I'm just gonna take yours.
It reminds me of like 2 years ago, like the Warriors that run an Elite Starseeker.
Yeah, just to take the game late, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, well, I've reached the late game. I just need something, just need a little bit of gas to push through. And that's what this card kind of gives you the chance to do. What do you think of the Shield Bearers?
They're super cheap taunts. I mean, that's basically why they're there, is just try to get the quest done as fast as possible.
Yeah. It's just...
They're also, they're really good for battle rages and things like that, because you can... you can get a damage on it. It's like a 0-4 is probably not going to die right away. You can get it damaged, and then you can draw a bunch of cards with it. So
yeah,
it's probably not. I probably wouldn't make that choice, but I'm sure there's been testing here and it's worked out well. So
I would assume so. And I don't.
One interesting exclusion from this deck is that there's no Scourge Lord Garrosh, which is, I think, kind of weird with the amount of token druid that we've been seeing. I think in this tournament, I mean, maybe it's just a really good meta read because Taunt Druid is kind of the thing. But I don't know. I feel like with Odd Paladin and Token Druid still being in the meta, I want at least a couple. I mean, I know there's Warpath, but more Whirlwinds
you don't
can't
want
be
to play
bad.
that, though. You don't want to play that in this deck because once you turn your hero power into random 8 damage fireballs, you don't want to then have...
Well, no, you Garrosh
Death Knight.
first, and then you...
Yeah, but sometimes you're not
later
going to
then
get that
you
option, right? Yeah. Like, his deck
That's
is
true.
clearly meant to try to get the quest done as quickly as possible. He's got shield bears, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't want to turn into...
So you don't
Scourge.
have room then to Garrosh in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I have never played Death Knight in my Quest Warriors before, because of that reason, right? It's like I don't want to... It's also one of the reasons I went away from playing the odd version, is that I'm doing all this stuff to make my hero power better, and then I'm just getting rid of that hero power anyway. Like, I don't know. To me, it's better to just, if my deck is built around getting rag shot hero power, then I should just make my deck about that, right?
Yeah.
Not try to
think
do a bunch of other things too.
you might be onto something too, Jocelyn, that Taunt Druid kind of ran away with it for this tournament specifically. There's still a few tokens, but you could also
Token
ban
was,
Yeah.
I feel like Token was a lot more popular like 2-ish tournaments ago.
DreamHack, it was the most
Yeah.
popular version. Yeah.
But that's a different format too, so.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Then now let's talk about the Spiteful Druid. This is Zhao T's Spiteful Druid, and it is almost card for card a ladder Spiteful Druid. There's nothing too crazy here. The craziest thing I noticed is the inclusion of a Void Ripper.
Yeah. That
That's
card is
the-
actually
Flippy floppy health one, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
health
yeah.
Attack
It-
one.
Yeah, I
converts, changes every single minion.
had to look it up.
I think that
forgot
card
what
is
it was.
actually really good right now, especially if you expect that you're going to see some Shudderwalk Shaman. You can just kill Manatide totems with it right away. This deck also is running like Crypt Lord and stuff like that, so all of a sudden you can turn your Crypt Lord into something that smashes face for a whole bunch, right? So, yeah, it seems like it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I get it. It was just it's the only thing that really stuck out. Otherwise, this is like if you go and look at the most popular Spiteful Druid on HS Replay right now, it's this list minus the Void Ripper.
Well,
Are
the thing
they
is,
putting in the one other mind control tech? Is that their thing?
Yeah, a lot of the
Okay.
latter ones are running 2 of the MC techs.
Yeah, so I think like this is really interesting because it basically, by including both one MC Tech and one Void Ripper, it means he's forcing his opponents to play around both. Like whether he uses them, whether they're in his hands or not, it's always going to be something that they have to take into account. If you like stack your tech too much, then it's like, okay, well, I know all I have to do is play around Mind Control Tech, or all I have to do is play around Void Ripper. This way, I have to play around both.
Yeah.
That's a good point. When you have full information in tournaments,
Yeah, 'cause
spreading
this is
out
all
your
open
tech
deck
cards
list, obviously.
spreading out your tech cards a little bit is a good idea.
Yeah. And I have not been keeping up with Spiteful Druid because I haven't seen any and I haven't been playing any Spiteful Druid personally. But it still has quite a lot of games logged if you're looking at stat websites. And it's starting to come back. It has a pretty solid win rate, and it has very strong matchups against a lot of archetypes that are showing at this tournament. Shutterwalk Shaman, for example, or Big Spell Mage has very, very good matchups against them.
Sure. I mean, if you look at his version is super aggressive too. So he is trying to kill you and kill you fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're trying to play something greedy, like Taunt Druid or Recruit Hunter, Zhao Ti does not want to let you do it.
He's got as much burst as you can get without running a bunch of spells, right? So Druid of the Claws in there, Leroy is in there. He's ready to rock and roll. I think this is a pretty solid choice, especially because everyone else is pretty much bringing Taunt Druid, and I think a lot of people are teching against that. Spiteful Druid might be able to run away with a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one I find the most. I find this one the most interesting of everything that we're talking about today.
Well, and the stuff he's really kind of weak against is like even shamans and odd rogues and the paladins and stuff. And we're just not seeing that much representation from those kind of decks. So he's really trying to be aggressive and punish the stuff that can't get rid of a 12/12 with, that can't be targeted. Like he just wants to beat you real quick and not give you time to do something like Shutterwalk his face.
I think he's going to do well against the even Warlocks and the Miracle Rogues with this deck for sure.
Oh, yeah, it was a great read that all the rogues were going to be Miracle Rogues because, he has a really decent lineup or a really decent matchup against them. And his lineup in general kind of like shores up any of the bad matchups that the Spiteful Druid might have. So I think his full lineup is pretty good against the most popular decks. So the Shutterwalk Shaman, the even Warlock, I like his lineup choices in general.
Yeah, if I'm going just purely on decks, I think Zhao Ti might be my favorite, and this is what kind of highlighted it for me and kind of made him stick out from the herd.
Did you guys do your choose your champion?
No, I forgot.
You can still do it. It's still up today.
Oh, good. Going to play Hearthstone right now. Okay.
Yeah, so reminder everyone, if you haven't chosen your champion, go choose your champion.
And then the final deck we wanted to cover is Dog's combo Dragon Priest, and also just make mention of the fact that Dog is in the top 16.
Yes, he is.
Which it's been a little while, but the combo Dragon Priest, I'm unfamiliar with it. Haven't really seen anything of it. Tried to dig up some stats on it today, and there really aren't any. This is not.
Well, it's got some cool stuff going on here as well. So Zalay played an Inner Fire Priest at DreamHack and said that he did really well with it. So it's still a deck it's just dangerous, right? Like you can't ever let anything stick. But what's kind of cool is he's running a single Inner Fire and a Crazed Alchemist. So he's clearly ready for people to be getting rid of his 1-drops, right? Like his 1-cost spells, Skulking Geist. He's ready for that to happen. He can still kill you even without the Skulking Geist. So it's a really cool version. It's also got Night Scale Matriarchs in it, which is not something historically I've seen in these decks, but it totally makes sense. It's got 9 health, and if you don't kill it, you're summoning whelps even if it doesn't instantly kill you, right? So he's just basically trying to maximize the threat potential, I think, which is one of the issues with this deck in the past is sometimes you're trying so hard to get something to stick. Put stuff out, get it to stick. And then they just keep killing all your stuff. And then you're just like, I just have no more stuff. I have nothing that I can make stick anymore. And back in the day, you used to be able to Shadow Madness stuff, right? But that's gone. So you can't do that anymore. So you can't kill them with their own stuff now. Or Potion of Madness, excuse me. You can still Shadow Madness, but so you really rely on getting that one thing to stick. And I like the Night Scale Matriarch as a possibility to do, as the game goes later.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. There's a similar deck making the rounds right now that actually has a decent amount of games under its belt that's running Night Scale Matriarch. But there's also some rather large differences. This is just a wildly unique deck compared to everything else that we're looking at in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he's also got Shadow Ascendant in here, so he's got a game plan that can kind of span a few different things. Right? He can sometimes just run away with the early board, snowball it out of control, and just kill you. Sometimes he'll just take it to the late game and he'll just kill you with one giant minion that he'll give 1,000,000 health to, and then Inner Fire or Crazed Alchemist it. So yeah.
And that was another really good read of what the tournament meta was going to look like, because I feel like we haven't seen Skulking Geist in the tournament meta for the last little while. And I mean, it was super, super popular back when we saw a lot of like warlocks doing QB dark pacty things, but since that's kind of fallen off, and even warlock's been more popular, Skulking Geist has fallen off too. But it is the most popular epic in this tournament, so having the read that he would have to have an alternate plan was, I think, a really awesome deck building read for this tournament. So
it counters Taunt Druid though too. So now it's there's other and also Miracle Rogue, because you get rid of Cold Bloods and stuff. So it makes sense again, right? Skulking Geist totally makes sense again, and making that read was pretty smart.
It's kind of nice to see Skulking Geist kind of come in and out of the meta, because, I mean, when it first came out, everyone was like, it's just anti-Jade Druid. It's like, but there's so many potential one-cost spells that kind of come in and out of fashion. So it's nice to see this tech card doing the same thing.
Yeah. I'm very excited about I don't think I'm going to get sick of seeing Twilight Acolytes ruin large attack minions days. So I'm very excited about that inclusion in Dog's Dragon Priest here.
Yeah, he also has a really good combo with Cabal Shadow Priest as well. So,
yeah,
yep,
yeah, it's more than one combo in this deck. So, these are also cool decks to go try if you're looking for something different to hit the ladder with. I know Quest Druid's been kind of making the rounds, but I can't remember the last time I talked to anyone who was like, "Yeah, I'm playing Spiteful Druid right now." Give it a shot. It's clawing its way back. So. We have links, by the way, in the show notes for all of this. Also, check out Hearthpwn. They've got a rundown of every single deck being brought. And that's where I grabbed these deck lists from. So, thank you for letting me crib your stuff. Now, before we move on to emails and wrap this up, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC. If you're listening to The Angry Chicken, if you like what we're doing here and you want to support us, the Patreon is the best way to do so. There's hundreds of you over there right now supporting us, whether it's a dollar all the way up to our producer level backers supporting us, and all of it helps. Our latest patron is Jeffrey S. So thank you, Jeffrey, for signing up to support The Angry Chicken. And my soundboard is dying on me. Oh, here it is. Now we can move on to emails. Send them to tacpodcast@gmail.com.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
And I just made my pick. Good luck, Xiao T. Godspeed. Dakota writes in and says, "Greeting, miffed chickens." I like that one. "I was listening to your podcast last week, and your discussion of a mechanic similar to Magic's flying got me thinking. The big rumor is that the next set will feature ethereals, right? You can call a big rumor making the really only assumption based off of that gateway. Sure, yeah. Anyways, Dakota continues, "Well, that gave me the idea. What if Blizzard's new flying-esque mechanic is something like this? Phase." And Dakota's interpretation of phase here would be, this minion ignores taunt and can only be attacked by minions with phase. It would kind of make sense since the ethereals are out of phase with the rest of the Warcraft universe. Just like to hear your thoughts and hope you continue to be the world's greatest X-enraged chickens." Yeah. I mean, this is pretty much what we were talking about, that we were thinking it would ignore taunt and could only be attacked by other minions with the same keyword. And phase is on brand if we're looking for something that's very specifically ethereal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, they probably can't, or, well, maybe they would, but you would think that they probably wouldn't just straight up steal a keyword, right? They'd give it Warcraft. They'd give it a Warcraft spin.
Yeah. But yeah, I
mean,
you know
sure.
what? Yes, because I bet you if it was flying, it would be like Mount or something.
There's some, yeah.
Like Griffin Rider.
It's I mean, it's basically what we were talking about. I don't care how they implement it. I just like the idea now. I'm like, the more I think about it, the more I think changing our combat, dynamics is something I really want to see. It just adds more depth to the board, and I like that.
I feel like this would be a little bit easier to implement too, like from a visual standpoint, because if you're trying to show a flying minion, it would either have to hover, which would somehow like obscure some of the board, or it would have to get like wings or something. I don't know. But if you want to just like phase something, you could just put like a purple smoke on it or something. I feel like that would be enough to show what it's doing.
Yeah.
So it might be visually easier than an actual like flyer.
I don't know, Jocelyn. I think you just sold me on I want little wings on my cards.
Yeah, I mean, I was imagining that the card would kind of look like it's hovering above the board with like, you'd see the shadow and then, maybe some sort of clouds or wings type animation going on. That's what I would imagine. But this makes sense too.
Yeah,
it all makes sense.
Be interesting. It would be interesting. We're probably so far off base from what they're actually going to be adding with the expansion. It's like, it's not ethereals and nothing like the mechanic you've been talking about. But we'll see. It's still fun to talk about.
Both our emails today are actually about what it could be if it's ethereals, because we've got to be coming up on announcement time, especially with HCT Summer. We might get a tease this weekend. So I figured, we need to get these out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
Before they're really not relevant anymore.
It's time to purge any and all ethereal or Netherstorm themed ideas.
Yeah.
Dills, you want to take the second email, which is apparently also
Sure.
about ethereals?
Yeah, David writes in, if they really go with the ethereal, and while those characters always seem to be vendors, I bet it's something like the Void Bazaar. They have access to unique characters, weapons, creatures, and their wares can be yours. The Hearthstone team always seems to twist their expectations. I think this could be an interesting idea. Keep on clucking. I think we have talked in the past about things like this, right? Like there was the whole red mana thing that we talked about, how maybe that could be used for like another type of resource.
Like a currency.
Yeah.
Turned out
I could see them definitely adding it. It's something that a lot of other card-based games use.
Yeah, I'm always interested about the idea of some new like set-specific resource. It could go in so many different directions, and it could also, it could be very difficult to design around. So I don't know if we'll ever see it.
Yeah.
Because
I think there's a way to do something like this, though. Thinking down the road of almost like Kazakus, if we had a bunch of different ethereal creatures, minions, that then like when you played them, you discovered a card from a set of bazaar cards, or a set of vendor cards, or a set of whatever you want to call them. And it's like there's 9 or 10 of them, and you get a choice of 3, and the only way to get them is to play these ethereal vendor cards. I think that could be interesting, and it like is already a mechanic from in the game sort of thing.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have to go too far out of the realm of what they're already doing in order to implement something like a Void Bazaar.
Spare parts.
Spare
parts and poisons and things like that,
Yeah.
Pivot question. Do you think we'll ever get tired of Discover?
No.
I don't think we will.
I don't think so.
I don't think we will.
It's a quality mechanic that I think will just always find new uses.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I don't want them to. Yeah, I don't want them to use it as like the only way to do things. I like finding specific cards too, on purpose. I think that's something we want in Hearthstone eventually. But I think definitely I could see something like that.
Build a Bazaar deck, and then your ethereals like pull a Bazaar weapon or something.
Well, that's the thing I was kind of thinking is maybe you could have there be a la Blade of Quel'Dalar, was that what it was? Where you could sometimes discover like pieces where you had to get multiples of them to then make something super powerful, or you could take like just the thing that will do something right now, right? So it's like you can discover, and then some things are like, oh, just a buff for this guy, like I just give him a sword or something. But sometimes they're like, get the hilt, then get the thing, then get the whatever, and then all of a sudden you make somebody like crazy powerful.
Was that in like Monster Hunt or something?
It was in not Monster Hunt, but
Dungeon Run?
Dungeon Runs.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I
you
literally do not remember ever trying to assemble a sword in Constructed.
No, yeah. So yeah, in Dungeon Run, you never did this in Dungeon Run? I guess you didn't play very much of it. you would get like either the blade or the hilt.
I remember seeing pieces, but I never picked it.
And if you picked both of them, sometimes you'd pick one and then you wouldn't get the other. But the one would still did something. It just wasn't that good. But if you got both, you'd create this weapon that then every time you swung with it, it dealt that much damage to the opponent's side of the board too. So it was just like, and you got like 5 charges. It was like 5 straight flame strikes essentially. It was insane, and you basically would just win.
I think I had to look it out. It's a 6/6. That's ridiculous.
It's a 6/6 weapon, right?
Yeah. After your hero attacks, deal 6 damage to all enemies. Yeah, I've never assembled Goldalar either.
I did it once, and I totally won the dungeon. It was so easy too.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty friggin' solid. Yeah, I could totally, like, something called like the Void Bazaar is so on brand for Hearthstone that it wouldn't surprise me if it was something like that. But it also wouldn't surprise me if something's completely different, completely nothing like what we're talking about, but still has that kind of Hearthstone spin on it. But the only thing I'm putting money on is that I bet it's not too dark and spooky, because we just did dark and spooky.
Yeah, I think we're ready for a super fight, because we had kind of like Lich King into Kobolds into Witchwood that were all kind of dark-ish. I think the last thing we had that was like big and colorful and fun would have been probably Ungoro.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're due up for something that's a little bit more GVG-ish.
Yeah. Also, let's get a song that's as good as GVG's song. Thanks.
Impossible.
Yeah, thanks for the emails, everybody. Keep them coming. tacpodcast@gmail.com. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you again to our awesome patrons for supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. You become a patron yourself and support us, whether it's $1 an episode or more. We really appreciate it. You can also drop us a 5-star review on the iTunes store if you want to help us. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H., Sean C., Johnny S., and LVE. Thank you for your generosity. We also have swag available. There are things like t-shirts over at shirts.amove.tv. You can get an Angry Chicken t-shirt. You can get jobs done in giant lettering and blazoned across your chest. Or custom etched glassware, pint glasses, wine glasses, stuff like that over at etched.amove.tv. We're typically live Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, so come join us in the Twitch chat over at twitch.tv/amovetv and yell things like, "It's not going to be Ethereals, it's going to be the Pink Portal expansion." Or something like that, something more specific. But before we leave, around the table, Dills, where can everybody find you?
Check me out on Twitter. I'm at Willie Dills, and twitch.tv/Willie Dills, where you can find me playing the Hearthstone when I'm not freaking working all the goddamn time, which has been lately. So sorry for everybody for not being able to stream that much lately. I've just been picking up so many shifts, which is good and bad, because I miss chilling out and playing Hearthstone with the chat. But it should be happening a lot more soon.
Jocelyn, what about yourself?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. You can also check out my Get Nailed stream, which is happening on Twitch on Friday. I'm going to be doing drag queen nails. I'm very excited. It's going to be fabulous.
I still want to see what these look like. I want to know.
No, you can't. I can't give hints ahead of time. You just have to tune in and find out. There's probably going to be rainbows and rhinestones, let's be honest.
Okay, all right. I just wanted a little teaser. Just like next time on Get Nailed. Rhinestones and rainbows.
That's so bad.
I'd be real happy, by the way, to do some previews, like preview voiceover work for your next episode, because I really think I could go for like the really deep voice. It would be good. It'd be good. Folks, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. You can follow me over there. Listen to me ramble about complete nonsense. All of the other podcasts I do can be found at amove.tv. I would like to direct everybody to another podcast that I do with Jocelyn called Embrace the Spoilers, and specifically Embrace the Spoilers Westworld, which did its finale episode yesterday, and we had a special guest, Scott Johnson, joined us to talk about the arguably mind-numbing finale of Westworld Season 2, which was 90 minutes long, and I had an actual headache after watching. So go and listen to that. Just search for Embrace the Spoilers Westworld wherever you get your podcast from. Other than that, that's all I'm going to promote this week. I am not taking graphic design commissions at this time because, like Dills, I have taken on too many and I'm spending too much time working. I am full up. Thank you, everybody, for your inquiries. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. We will see you next week for episode 270. But until then, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes.
You just waking up?